Hey, I'm James Preston Rogers. You might recognize me from Pixels, The Blackening, or Beverly Hills Cop. Just did an interview with MovieJunk. Check it out. Tell me what you think.
Hi, James. Welcome to Movie Junk. How are you?
Hey, MovieJunk, thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for joining. We have a very special guest joining our show today, and James Preston Rogers. James is fresh off the release of Beverly Hills Cop for Axel F. We've seen
Yep.
your work in Pixels, Outlander, Mayan MC, so many exciting projects. I can't thank you enough for joining today.
Oh, thanks for reaching out and having me, man. It's I've been watching you for a bit now, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Definitely, definitely. And there's so many different places where we can start. And I mean, just from obviously your extensive career, obviously with working with some many notable, some of my favorite actors, and Eddie Murphy, Ron Perlman, Adam Sandler, Jason Momoa. Can you share, sort of what are some memorable experiences working with these guys?
The most is that they're just really themselves. Like Adam Sandler is really Adam Sandler, the guy you see on TV where you go to set. Same, just one of the guys. Most of them are. You think they have these big Hollywood personalities, but you're just going to work. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. So for me, the glamour and glitz of, oh, I booked a show and I'm going to be in a movie, like that was many years ago. Now we go to work and we work the scenes and the beats we want to make, and it's good. That's the thing, is the camaraderie, because it's such a small community. So when you work with someone who's worked with someone and you have a story about them, and then that casting agent casts you in Righteous Gemstones and they'll cast you in Mayans, then you start building a network, and it's really cool. You start, you really don't know how it's going to pan out for yourself, and then next thing you know, you're making a career out of it.
It's amazing. And if I'm not mistaken, you also had the opportunity to go a different route, right? You also had an opportunity early on to maybe go into wrestling. Is that at all correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I was what did I do? I was a doorman for many years in Toronto at a club called Fluid. Where all the stars would come when they come to Toronto. I met Rod Stewart, Prince, Jordan, anybody who was coming to the city to play or do a concert, they'd always come to Fluid. So I met a lot of people. I met Booker T, and I was doing some local wrestling. And Booker T, I talked to him. I said, I'm trying to get into the company. He's like, okay, send me your tapes. So I sent my tapes to Booker. He's like, I got a school opening up. So they opened up the school around the same time I booked Outlander. So I booked Outlander, and then I did a movie of the week with Tom Selleck called Sea Change. And I just finished shooting those two, and the WWE calls me and goes, hey, you want to come down and audition? So I went down and I tried out in Houston. I got a developmental deal, and I was working in Houston for a while. And then I moved over to the Deep South, which was in Atlanta, and I was doing that for a bit. But it's just two totally different animals. The live show is great, but you really have to love wrestling to marry it. Wrestling to me was like a girlfriend that I like to spend time with, but I couldn't see myself marrying her. She was fun, but you're always injured. You always have, spurs in your elbows, and your always back is hurt, and you're always icing, and you're always on some kind of Tylenol or something. And it just wasn't really for me. I liked something about getting the script. The writer would write a script, and then you would read the script, and you'd see what you wanted to add to the script, and the director added what they wanted to, and you do this whole thing, and then you look up on the screen, you're like, wow, we made that. It just struck a better chord for me. I was just way happier doing the process of auditioning and acting and booking a role, and the not knowing and the knowing, and that was just exciting for me, as opposed to wrestling. We hit the guy with your head finishing move, and the crowd went. They go back through the curtain, and it's just like it's over until the next match. And it just wasn't as exciting. But I had to try it. I was athletic, good on the mic. I had the look. I'm 6'6", 260. So I had to do it. And I did it just to say, hey man, no regrets. I don't want to be later in life being, oh man, I should have tried wrestling. So I went. I worked with them, and luckily I got out of my contract, and I was able to chase the acting dream. Now, the time I was doing that was the time that The Rock was doing. What was it he did for Disney? It was like the Tooth Fairy,
Oh, oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and not, wrestlers weren't really seen as much as actors back then. Hulk Hogan did some stuff, but it was kind of, it wasn't great theatrically. If I go wrestling, I may never be seen as a legitimate actor. Fast forward 20 years later, all the wrestlers are getting all the jobs. I'm like, oh, took the long way around, but I got a lot of tools in my belt, when it comes time to finding a character and reading a script and timing and accents. I'm a really well-rounded actor now. I directed my first short called Gutterball Blues. We're getting out into some film festivals, and I actually, now that I'm directing, it helps me as an actor, because I'd always be, oh, I can do this as an actor. I can do this. I can do this. And then the director's like, oh, that's great. And now as I'm a director, I'm like, well, I'm trying to tell the story, and I'm great. All these actors can do that, but that takes away from where I'm trying to take the story. So now when I get a script, I'm like, oh, okay, now I have my part. The crossing guard doesn't need to have 20-inch biceps. So it's like, okay, I don't have to be all like huge for this role. So it's interesting, man. It's such a thing. And the thing about acting is you can direct. I'm actually getting into writing now, and then you can do stuff like acting, of course, stunts, produce, locations, and there's so many like grips, and there's so many, like I'm on set and there's like 75 people running around. I'm like, what is everybody doing here? It's like, but everybody's so busy. It's just such a vast industry that once you get into it, you can go anywhere, as opposed to being like, you go to a 9 to 5, you're kind of there, maybe you get a promotion. Just the thing about acting is it's so vast, and and people always need to be entertained. If you think back to the kings and queens, they had court jesters to entertain them. So it's always about storytelling. Some would travel afar and come back with the stories that they have. So I think storytelling is in our nature, and I'm just very happy and fortunate enough that I got to find it and then be able to work in it. So I'm just totally blessed.
No, definitely right. And I mean, obviously with your presence, right? I mean, 6'6", obviously quite an impressive physique. Definitely not surprised that you were recruited and wanted, and obviously, folks wanted to get you into the wrestling business, and we're seeing that, translate right from, wrestlers going onto the big screen. Rock being a example that we actually just recently, the interview before last, we interviewed Mike Cashflow Walden, who's also a wrestler, who's on Tulsa King. He's
Yeah.
on Stallone's crew, and yeah, he was just sharing very similar journey as well too, right? The passion of storytelling and being in the movie business. So excited to obviously see, because a lot of times when you see folks with really good mic skills, right? You see them, in these wrestling promotions, and then seeing that sort of carry over into dialogue. But there's so much more obviously you can do in the entertainment business, right? So definitely exciting to hear that journey of yours.
Yes, it's been quite a journey, and it's not over yet. Like I said, I've just recently discovered, someone approached me to ask me to direct. It was a short, it was like 5 to 7 pages, like a 2-minute short. And I said, sure. I said, but let me read it. So I read it. I said, can I do some rewrites? They're like, you can do the rewrites. Rewrote, went and shot it, and I'm like, ooh, I kind of like directing. And it's the thing was, I've been acting for almost 20 years, so you don't really know how much you know until you have to show what you know. So like the night before, I was a little nervous. I'm like, geez, do I even know how am I gonna. Next thing you know, because I've worked with almost 60 films. So I've worked with almost 60 of the top directors. And I must have been learning something from everybody. And I'm just setting up this, and the lighting guy, and I have this guy sit, I'm coming this way. And I'm like almost standing outside of myself going, oh my goodness, am I like, is that me? Like I'm totally directing the whole day. And we shot it all in one day. And shout out to Jacob Shaw for putting it together and letting me direct his film for him. And now the director bug. And I'm like, ooh, that was new, because I act a lot and I do a lot of different characters, but to direct other actors and to pull stuff out of them and tell them what they need to hear to get what I want for that camera. And it was cool. A couple of times I told my camera guy, I said, keep running on this one actor I had of mine, because I wanted to get something from him that he wasn't giving to me between action and cut. And we got the moment. Like it was like a real moment of him just being him. I'm like, great, we'll put that in the edit. So it's just, man, like I'm talking about, I'm getting excited. So, and then I'm like, I've had some TV shows and movies in my mind for a long time. So now I'm starting to write stuff. Now I'm writing. That's like, I'm like born again almost, like in the entertainment industry, because I've acted, audition, I've done, so if you look at 60 bookings, say you do every 10 auditions, I probably auditioned 600 times over the years. So like, it's kind of, not that I'm tired of it, but I've worn a callus to that. So now to get the directing opportunity and writing opportunity, it's like, ooh, I enjoyed that. So it was kind of new. So so we'll see where that leads us. Yeah.
How's the, and you mentioned, right? I mean, several auditions, right? How's from what I'm hearing, obviously from COVID, right? The audition process now, folks are able to actually send via Zoom auditions now, right? Are you able to do more auditions remotely, or are you still finding that directors or producers want you to come in person for an audition?
Yeah, I think the industry has changed. When I first started, I remember I would you always try to get in the room and you meet the casting agent. They get to know you, and they did, then it's more of a personal business, and they know, because if you're going to shoot a film, you're going to be there for 2 to 3 months. They want to make sure that you're okay outside of the audition. Like, how is this guy approaching? Does he shake my hand? Does he look me in the eyes? Is he like, do I want to hang out with this guy for 6 months, 3 months, whatever the case may be? So when I first started, it was always that. And then they're like, oh, we couldn't get you in the room. My team would be like, oh, well, we can get you a self tape. You can self tape. I'm like self tape at one time was like, that you're self taping, they're not looking at you. And I'm actually old enough that I actually did self tape on VHSs and would mail those in and wait to hear back.
Wow.
Did they get my tape? Like, so
Wow.
now we're like self taping. So now I'm like, the shortest, easiest part of my audition is the dialogue, setting up the lights, editing, color coding, making sure it's like finding a reader, because you can't always find a good reader. Like, I had my neighbor come over and he's like, English is a second language. I'm like, oh man, I got this huge audition for like, Mortal Kombat, and I got this guy reading with me. I'm like, oh, it's gonna, so there's all these other factors now, and I got to edit, I got to get in on time, as opposed to going in the room. Now, if we now take all these actors today that have been self-taping, that's all they know. You want to go in the room, you talk about pressure when you have a row of execs looking at you. Whenever you're ready, and you're like, your mouth dries up, and you're just like, do I even remember the words? You start second guessing everything. Like, I've gone through that. That was the first, 10 years of my career. So when they're like, go into the room, I'm like, oh, for me, that's great. And everybody else is like, oh, the room was a pressure cooker. They try to put pressure on you, because like when I did Frontier with Jason Momoa, I remember one day we were going to set and had it all worked out. There's the scene where I'm walking around the forest with him, and he's kind of hiding behind a tree, and I'm looking for him. And they rewrote that whole day on the way that I got there. Like,
Wow.
okay, we got new ideas. We're going to do this. Take that third paragraph, do that one second now, and they're writing my dialogue and I'm handing it to me as I'm walking to set. So I'm like, okay. Luckily, I've had the pressure of being in the room, because when you have to rewrite something on the day, walking to lighting, you're like, okay, got it. And I put it down. Had I been a self taper, someone maybe reading their lines, like, I wouldn't have had those skills. So I'm really confident in the skills that I have, and I'm just so happy and lucky I get to work. They say find something you love and you'll never work again, man. That's been acting for me. And I tried the wrestling, and I'm glad I did. But the acting is where it's at for me now. It's maybe directing. I'm just finding new joys. I'm a new father. I got a 5-year-old son, Raiden. I got a 2-year-old boy,
Congrats.
Odin
Congrats.
Raiden. Yeah,
Oh,
and
cool. Cool.
yeah, it just
Congrats.
changes everything, man. Like, I remember looking at some TV shows that I think I auditioned for a couple of them, like Sweet Tooth, and I was watching the show, and I'm like, oh, now that I'm a dad, I see it completely different, because it's like I look through the eyes of a dad who has 2 boys now. It's like there's stuff I can't audition for. There's things I won't do now, because my boys gotta look at that stuff one day, right? So again, another change on my path is becoming a father, and it's funny because I always held off on being a dad. I'm like, I don't want to blame my kids if I don't make it, and I don't blame my wife, and I want to resent them. So, but you meet the right person, and it always just falls into place. Now it's puts a perspective on everything, puts everything kind of in place.
Definitely, definitely. And just from, obviously, speaking with you, obviously these few minutes, I definitely feel obviously your passion. I'd love to hear sort of what were some early inspirations growing up, whether it was an actor or even if it was a director growing up. Were there any early filmmakers where you sort of had early inspiration from or strive from?
Yeah, when I was in grade school, we went to see this play called Jacob Tutu and the Hooded Fang. And the guy that played Jacob Tutu, he's about my age around that. And I remember watching him. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that is awesome. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, how is this? Like, you guys so entertaining. I was just like, I loved it. And I did school plays, and I took drama in school, and how it became. I was dating an actress at the time when I was being a doorman, and she was like, you should get into acting. I'm like, get 8x10s, look at my picture. Which picture looks better? Like, I was like, And then a commercial came into town. They were shooting a Mr. Big commercial. I'm looking for wrestlers. I had really long hair. And they're like, James, go down for this audition. So I went down for the audition without an agent, booked it, and I made like $5,000 for 2 days. I was like, whoa. Then I found an agent shortly thereafter. Then I worked on Outlander with Ron Perlman and Jim Caviezel. That week I booked the Tom Selleck job, and I'm like, man, I had more money in 2 weeks than I've ever had. I'm like, okay, I think this is something. And then I starved for 20 years. And I know you get these little jobs, you're like a couple of dollars here and there. But yeah, growing up, who inspired me? I think, early on, like, I'm a big guy, right? So I would look to people like Tom Selleck, who was, 6'4". And when I met him, he said, "Oh, you're gonna have a hard time in this industry." I'm like, "Why is that?" He's like, "Well, remember the Fall Guy, Colt Seavers?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, that was his first job." He says he gets to set, and Colt Seavers was on the apple box. They're doing the scene. Colt Seavers falls off the apple box, and then he's like, needless to say, they didn't call me back for the second day. And then Ron Perlman's looking at my shape. He's like, this industry's not going to be kind to you. I'm like, why not? He's like, do you think Tom Cruise is going to want to stand beside you in his film? He goes, I don't want to stand beside you. I was like, so Ron and me were really good. We were super cool. Even now, we still talk. And which is another story, because my mom passed away when I was 20, and her favorite actor was Magnum PI, Tom Selleck, and Beauty and the Beast, Ron Perlman. And then forward a couple of years later, I'm working with both of them, and so I was visiting my dad, and we're watching the Regis and Kelly show. And so there's your buddy Tom. So he turns it up, and we're watching it. And he's talking about the show. I go, Dad, he's talking about the show that we're on. Well, then he uses the clip. And actually, this is online, so you can probably find it. Then he uses the clip of me and him in the scene. And he's like, "Hey, James, you owe me," or something. He gives a shout out to me on the Regis and Kelly show. My dad looks over at me. And I've never seen that look on my dad, because he's my dad and me, right? So he looked at me like my mom's favorite actor of all time just mentioned his son on the Regis and Kelly show. Like, it was like a changing of the guard. The way my dad just looked at me, it was like,
that's insane.
It was cool. Yeah, this has given me a lot of good moments. There's so many, and I did a film just recently called Psycho Killer, which I shot after Beverly Hills Cop, and that's still in production. They're putting it together. But I got to fly my dad out to Winnipeg. I sat him in the director's chair, and he had the headset on, and he's watching the playback, and I got some videotaping him watching me on the screen. So I've had some really good moments with that. It's given me a lot of really good moments, personally, professionally, but a lot of heartbreak too. I mean, only something can break your heart that you love. There's been some times I've come close on a few jobs I really wanted to get, and I didn't get them, but it's taught you that, you know what, you can't see the reason now, but for some reason you didn't get this job. And then 3 months later, like, oh, I got that job. This wouldn't have happened, whatever in my personal life or something with my family. I'm like, I would have been in Budapest shooting this, and I would have got that. Oh my goodness. So I just trust and believe I'm on the right path, and just keep moving forward. And I choose happiness. Could I have a bigger car? Could I have a bigger house? Could I have more cars? Sure. Am I going to dwell on that? No. I got a house. I got a car. I got food in the fridge. I got 2 healthy boys. I got a wife who loves me. Man, it's great. I get to audition again today. What am I reading for? Oh, it shoots in Fiji. Fantastic. And I just perpetuate that moving forward, as opposed to, everybody has downs in their life. You could focus on all the down stuff and drag yourself down. And there's times when I was younger, I would focus on the negative, and and I just wouldn't be happy for long periods of time. So life's short. I just choose happiness. Even if I work it down to the lowest common denominator. Like, hey, I'm healthy. Hey, I'm not in the hospital bed tied up to tubes. I can get up and do stuff. And then I got to see a friend today. Had a good conversation. I'm doing an interview today. Like, it's just, you can always build yourself up. And anytime you're feeling down, you just find hey, I'm healthy. I got all my appendages, and then build from there, and just keep yourself happy, and just start attracting happier things. And just been very fortunate with that.
Definitely right. And I mean, you do such an amazing job as the role of Kurtz and Cop 4, Axel F. And with this film, I mean, this was 40 years, after the first, 30 years after the last cop movie we had, which was part 3. And we had interviewed the late, which is very, tough saying now, the late John Ashton, who played Taggart, right? Who we
Yeah.
just lost, who'd been on our show, and he was so excited, obviously coming back to this role, and said it was like, like the guy's never left.
Yeah.
So definitely you got the original crew back. So definitely would love to hear how you first heard about the role, and what was it like being a part of this franchise, being part of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise?
Well, I have a chance to audition like everything. Like agent called me and said, you can audition. So I auditioned for it. And then about a week after, I saw a mass audition on Instagram. So like, oh, what? Like a shout out to like, hey, any bodybuilder looking like this? I was like, oh, so I didn't get the role, obviously. And it's funny you mentioned this story because I had watched what's the guy's name? Not Richard Pryor. What's the guy that does Family Feud? What's his name?
Steve Harvey.
Yeah, so I was watching a Steve Harvey clip at the time, and Steve Harvey's like, "Hey, I was living in my car." He's like, and I said, "God, I'm tired of living hand to mouth. If you make me rich and famous, I'll tell everybody it was you." And here I am telling everybody it's you. So like, okay. So I said, "Okay, God, here we go. I've been living hand to mouth pretty much." I said, "You want to show me your reel? Show me your reel." It's like, okay. So I had auditioned for a couple of things, and my agent called me and says, "Oh, you booked it." I'm like, "What did I book?" Like Beverly Hills Cop. I'm like, okay, you got, all right. This is why, okay, I believe. So I get down to Beverly Hills Cop, and I'm in Toronto. I did the callback in Toronto. So I get down to Beverly Hills Cop. We're there on set, and the other guy that played Silva, the other big guy, he calls me my phone. He's like, "Hey, do you want to go over some lines?" I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll come to your trailer." So I go to his trailer. I walk in his trailer, and I look over and I see there's a Bible there, and I'm like, hmm. I said, "Is that a Bible?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, let me ask you a question. If the Father made everything, why do we pray to the Son?" He's like, "Oh, the Son is the go-between, the Son of Man, the Son of God." And he started explaining it to me. So, huh. So then I started asking him another question, another question. He opens the book and he's reading. I'm like, every question I had was in this book, and I'm like, huh. So he was saved at 17, and he's been traveling the world, preaching the word. And I was just like, wow. And after that, I started getting more, spiritual, more into God and Jesus and all that. And after it, I was like, I said, show me your reel. And he sent me to this trail, and he did his call back from Florida. Man, there must have been 30,000 people up for this job. So I get it from Toronto. He gets from Florida. I get there. We start discussing the Bible. We hadn't even looked at their sides, and we got to go to set. And I'm like, wow, like what are the odds of me meeting this guy there and him having all the answers to every question I've had for the past how many
That's
years? So
insane. That's
yeah,
insane.
so it just got So now I just
Perfect
feel
pair.
God with me. It's incredible because I worked as a doorman. I did all the wrong things all the time, and I just had this lightness about me to feel like I'm not alone, that I have purpose. Because a couple of times, I ended up in the wrong end of things. I could have went the other way, but it didn't, and it led me this way. And I got these two beautiful boys and a wife, and it's just incredible, man. The path is just. But anyway, sorry. Back to your question. Yeah, to be as
And
part
I,
of
I love I
Beverly Hills.
love hearing this story, by the way, too. No, definitely. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you. So about being a part of Beverly Hills Cop, I watched them all too, and then Eddie comes in, and Eddie's, he's surveying the scene. He's looking around. He's like, okay, we're doing this way. And he's writing to himself. The director's like, okay, Eddie. And then the one scene I have with the fire extinguisher, Eddie's
Great.
like, he's like, I don't like this. And it seems corny. I'm thinking to myself, oh no, he's gonna cut the scene. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. And then Mark Malloy's like, okay, Eddie, we have to shoot the scene. So could you get to your ones, please? And he's like, oh yeah, I don't like it. We got. So he started moving some pieces around, so it made more sense. He didn't want it to be so quirky, but he was very here. Like it's like he had a lot of weight on his shoulders when he showed up. Maybe he's looking after his brother's kids. His brother passed away not too long ago. He had the weight of the world on him, but when it was action, he was up. And he's looking at me, and he's turning to me. We're doing a scene. He's looking at me right in my eye, and he's like saying his dialogue. I'm like, it's Mr. Robertson's Neighborhood, man. It's Eddie Murphy. It's Saturday Night Live. Like, I had a moment. I was like inside myself going, "Oh my gosh, it's Eddie Murphy. He's talking to me." Because you see like a TV show, you see the side of his face, but to have him looking right down the barrel at you was like, wow. So we had a couple of beats like that, and for me, I'm really good friends with Russell Peters, and Russell Peters is a stand-up comic here from Toronto with me. I've known him since we
One
were
of the
kids.
best. He's one of the best. One of my
Oh,
favorites.
he's yeah. Oh, dude, that guy is so generous. I mean, that guy. I got stories for him for days. So anyway, I get me and Eddie in between takes. I say, hey, Eddie, I said, hey, do you, like, I said, you know Russell Peters? Like, oh yeah, I love Russell. I was a really good buddy of mine. And like, oh, great. So in between sets, in between takes, me and Eddie would hang out, fill in the gaps, where you're waiting for the camera change or the lens change or something. And it's funny. A couple of days go by, Eddie's on set, Kevin Bacon. So it's me, Kevin Bacon, Mark Pellegrino. And they're like, okay, first team in. So we get up to the room, we walk in, we're on our marks. Okay, ready. And look at it, Kevin, me, we're like, I don't know. And they're like, 5 minutes. We're like, first team's here. What are you waiting for? And we're like, you're waiting for Eddie to come in. And Eddie comes in like the Beatles, he bumps in, gets out of his car, security all around him. He hits his mark. We hit the scene, and Eddie takes off. It's like first team, and then Eddie Murphy. So it's like, yep, it was pretty cool, man. Like he's a star among stars, and he's super, super pro when it's on, he's go, dude. He had some, I don't know if they have the outtakes on the DVD or whatever we buy now, but he was just ad lib, and I'm like, and it was gold. Like they have to put that stuff somewhere. I mean, it's like so entertaining. Like I was waiting for the scene to be over, like we'd finish the dialogue, because Eddie's gonna keep going, and we're like, he's just so like he's that funny guy in your class. I mean, he was just so talented. It was great working with him. He was super cool, man. Yeah.
You mentioned Mark Pellegrino, and a movie that I think doesn't get enough credit where he was in, and part of his performance in Cop 4, kind of I saw similarities with this movie, was The Cherokee Kid. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but it was with him, Sinbad, where Sinbad's an
Oh,
outlaw cowboy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and Mark Pellegrino, I mean, still he looks amazing still. I mean, to this day too, right? I mean, he did well, all you guys did an amazing performance. But that's a movie that I think that whenever I see him or hear his name, love that movie. And he was actually excellent in that movie. And so part of how he took on this role, I saw some similarities to that as well.
Yeah, he's super cool to get along with too. Like, oh, that guy reads books. Like he's reading like 3-4 books at a time. Like we're like in between takes, he pulls a book out, he's like ripping through stuff. Like
Yeah.
just a really sharp. He teaches the Meisner technique, which is an acting technique. I think he's in France. I think he's living in France or England. He's living overseas somewhere. But man, just a fountain of things that he's done in his life, man. He was great to hang out with too, man. And what
Yeah.
else? Eddie, of course. Oh, and yeah, John. I mean, it's just man, it wasn't like going to work. I couldn't wait to get there. Like I had a 4 a.m. call time, so I'm leaving my house at like 3:15. I set my alarm for like 2:30 in the morning. Oh, talk about getting up at 2:30. It's one thing to stay up from 2:30 from the night before, but to wake up at 2:30. Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
It was it was trying, man. But no,
If I
we're lucky. I'm part of the franchise, part of the franchise.
if I told you that I've seen, and this movie hasn't been out for that long, but if I've told you that I've seen it maybe 20 times, is an understatement. I've seen it, and I've watched the development, because this is part one, was next to Coming to America is my favorite movie of all time. Those two movies
Yeah.
go back and forth a lot. So when this movie finally was kind of getting some wind, it was into pre-production and started to see that we were actually getting close, because I was nervous. I was nervous. I was like, man, is this going to be done right? And I know with Eddie, he was really waiting till the script was perfect, till he was going to move forward with it. And I thought this movie was just so fresh and so, upbeat, obviously, with the times that we are today, with still an amazing mix of the 80s and the soundtrack, and Harold Faltermeyer coming back. So you're getting a good mix of both worlds. And you guys just tore up. I mean, at least from what I saw in the movie, tore up Beverly Hills.
Oh, oh my goodness. It was yeah, I was like, yeah, it was like the Rodeo Drive. We shut down for a couple of days at least. And I mean, when you shut down the street, you got to pay each store what they would make in a day, and they did that for like maybe a week. And then my
Wow.
buddy, we were chasing Eddie, and my buddy pulled his hamstring on like the last near shot of the day, and so they had to reschedule to come back again, like 4 or 5 weeks later. My buddy's hamstring healed. and they shut it down again. Oh, it was crazy, man. Yeah, and then up and down the stairs and the running, dude. My gosh, I've never like I play college basketball, but I've never run like that. I mean,
You have a lot of
shoes.
running scenes in this movie.
Oh, it was all running, and it was like we had like leather shoes on, we had like pants and like suit jacket. It was like we're running on concrete. Like, okay, back to ones. I'm like, I can't. And our stunt doubles are sitting in the chair. Like, I'm like, can't we use the stunt doubles? I'm like, no, because the camera's on you. We see you. I'm like, it was brutal, man. And like I said, my buddy tore his hamstring. It was bad, dude. It was not easy. But hey, man, we got the shot. You know, we're part of the franchise, which is great. You know, like I said, I watched that growing up too, and to do a scene with Eddie Murphy, you're like, dude. Like, I mean, I've had some moments, and that was one of them for sure. You know, I think he shot me, and yeah, he shot me in that one. He killed me, didn't he? So yeah, that was a great film, man.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, with each one of these movies, right? There's a an amazing villain, right? With the first one, you got Victor Maitland, you had the arms dealer in the second one, you had Ellis DeWalt in the third, and then in this one, we get Kevin Bacon, who plays the villain role perfectly, right? I mean, and you were part of his crew, right? You guys were part of the villain crew. What was it like working with him, and what was that dynamic like?
Oh, Kevin was great, man. He's a pro's pro. Like he shows up and he's got dialogue out the wazoo, and he's nailing everything. And the thing when he's doing the cocaine bumps, like he would change like after like the little details he was bringing. You know, he sat down in front of Jane. He would do it one way, and then like, hey, try it, go Ben. And he'd do it a totally different way because you know that when you give it to the editors, you want to give them different looks. It's the same dialogue, but depending upon the pace of the movie, when they get to that part of the movie, I always try to do different stuff for the editor, like bit faster, a bit slower, you know, a little more intense, less intense, you know, looking around this way, so I can always have something to put in because I don't know what the pace is like technically at that, what the feel is that the editors are putting together. So I try to give them a lot. And I saw Kevin doing that as well. I saw him doing different things. I'm like, oh, that's for the editor. Like, but I've known this because I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing it. I don't have a Kevin Bacon career. Maybe no one knows who I am, but I've been in it long enough to know that I got to give the editors something to work with. I mean, I was in the Mayans and it was just in between takes. I'm just standing there. I'm just doing this, just shifting my weight, just looking around. All that gets put in the edit because they need filler. The guy's talking and they turn me and I'm like, boom. So I just know to keep moving. And I talking to my buddy. He's like, what were you, number 4 on the call sheet in Beverly Hills Cop? He's like, you were everywhere. And I'm like, that's just years to know, like, the camera's going to come this way. Okay, we're doing the blocking. I'm going to stay over there because I'm going to get this side of the camera, or we're running to be on this side. He's like, buddy, he goes, you're all over that film. I'm like, I know, just years of anything. If you do something for 20 years, you better be pretty good at it by that, or find something else to do, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm part of the franchise. I'm part of the Righteous Gemstones. I mean, my resume is pretty thick now, man, and I'm happy with it, you know. And it's not like, oh, I got to do this. And actually, I did Psycho Killer, where I was the lead character. I was Psycho Killer, which, you know, they're editing now. But I've never had it that much before. I've always been a day player, right? You come in, you do your bit, and then you go. Now I'm the main guy, and I have all these day players coming in with me. They leave, and they come in, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. And the days are 16, 18 hours, and it's a 6-hour turnaround, and you're in the cold, and you're like, oh man, you're getting tested in a different way, you know. Then the driver is taking you back at the end of the 18-hour day, and they haven't met you yet, so they want to talk to you about the town, and you like Winnipeg, and what do you think? I'm like, it's great. Now I'm so happy to be here. You're like, okay, everyone's watching now. Uh, don't lose it on anybody, or else that's all they're going to talk about. And this day and age, don't be alone with anybody. I can't go into the trailer because there's only one makeup girl in there. So I wait until there's more than one. I wouldn't, and you got to think differently as a lead. Like, I mean, so all these guys, all these leads, all these years have had this pressure that I only realized one time, and it was exhausting. So I got to be the lead. I got to go do some pro wrestling. I've done 60 films and televisions. I'm into directing now. So I'm just happy that I keep it fresh and I'm able to find my smile every day. But yeah, being a lead, like, so I can only imagine what Eddie's been like. Eddie's been doing this for what, 30 years plus. So
No,
I can only,
more than that. Yeah, he was, if I'm not mistaken, in 48 hours, he was 20, 21 maybe.
you know what I heard? You might have heard this too. I think that they were going to have Stallone do Beverly Hills Cop. I think it was written for Stallone, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So initially it was Stallone,
Mhm.
and then it was going to have a totally different.
Oh,
Well, basically, it ended up becoming Cobra. The movie that Stallone was going to do
oh,
was
oh,
pretty much
yeah,
Cobra
yeah.
at the end of it, and then I forget where the disconnect was, but then Mickey Rourke was also attached to,
Mm,
and then after that is when they decided to go a different route and went the comedy route, and then we got Eddie Murphy, which I
yeah.
think was a blessing, right? Because and I actually liked Cobra. I thought Cobra was awesome, but this is one of the, I think it was the highest rated R-rated movie, either of all time or at least for several years, probably beaten by what do you call it? What was the movie? It just
Deadpool.
Deadpool. I think Deadpool probably broke it, but several years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, it had a lot of changes in the beginning, but for the better.
Yeah, and again, to go back to what you said, I think there was a great marriage between the retro Beverly Hills Cop and the modern day. Like when he comes to LA and he's just like, what the like the way that he tied in the past to the present. I think it was genius, you know. And Mark Malloy, the director, he was finding moments, and it was a big set, man. And they shut down Rodeo Drive, and we were crashing cars and hit helicopters, and it was like, man, this is a big bang budget movie from like back in the day, and it was done really well. And like I said, it was just I was blessed to be there and be a part of it, you know, and I'm so thankful. And
Definitely.
man, what else can I say? It was a great time.
Definitely right. I mean, I think it was 100 million, 150 million plus budget. I mean, this was
That's,
definitely the makings of a theatrical release. I mean, Netflix definitely spends, right? And from what I mean, for I don't know if it's still active, but there was records that were being broken as far as most viewed hours for a movie. I mean, there was a lot of it was number one for several weeks. And Mark Malloy, if I'm not mistaken, this was his directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, he was doing music videos up till now, and I spoke
Yeah,
to him about that
yeah.
because when you as an actor we sign into a movie, we do our part, and we go on to the next one. A director, you're on for like 3 years. You're on there from the casting to the editing to the everything in between. Like, oh my gosh, like, and it's. I mean, then and a movie of that size, you're going to have the big guys calling you from the network. What's going on with this? And then Eddie has he had to juggle so much, man. And hats off to him. What a great job, you know, to be able to corral all that talent and to deal with all he dealt with and tell that story that he told, man. I mean, it was
Yeah.
really well done. Hats off to Mark Malloy. Yeah, for sure.
I imagine, we can't wait another 10 years because Eddie's probably going to be in his 70s, but I'm pretty sure he'll still be kicking. But are there talks of a part five?
Yeah, I was trying to get in that. I was like, "Hey, listen, guys. I mean, the things we're doing today with medicine is fantastic. I actually don't think Kurtz is dead. I
Yeah.
think he's still kicking. I mean, he was shooting his gun as he was going down. There's got to be a pulse in there somewhere." So we
It
were
wasn't a
laughing.
headshot. I thought it was a body shot that you took. It wasn't a headshot,
I think
if
I
I'm
have to
not
go back
mistaken.
and look because we did a few different takes. So I'm not sure which one went to film. Um, but yeah, you know
Or
what?
you can grow your hair out too. You can grow your hair out and play a different character.
I could be the brother coming to avenge his brother, 100%. You know, dye it red or something. You know, mohawk or something. Yeah. There was talks in the beginning. I don't know if it was like just happy go lucky, you know, talks. Yeah, we're gonna do number five too. Like I really don't know. I wouldn't nothing concrete, but you're right. I mean, this number four was really good, you
Yeah,
know. But you know, we just lost John, so there's that.
yeah,
Like how do you, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, anything's possible in film and television.
yeah.
I would be talking out of turn if I said I knew what was going on with that, which I really don't. But that would be great, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it too. Like some films I do, I'm like, you know, paycheck, you know, and then some stuff I'm like, wow, that was really cool. So I was happy with it, man.
Definitely. I mean, I know the actor that played Bogomil. I'm pretty sure. I think he's still alive as well too. I think an interesting version of Part Five is have something come back, from Axel's past. Maybe it's Victor Maitland's son coming back to take revenge, for his
Yeah,
father, and kidnaps, Axel's daughter, and build a story around that. Kind of like a Die Hard, three take. When the brother comes back and
yeah,
takes revenge. But yeah, definitely with the success, obviously sooner rather than later would be great. I definitely also want to ask as well too, because again, you mentioned obviously you're dipping into directing, yet you have a passion for writing as well too, and you're obviously getting some really exciting action roles as well too, and you've worked with some of the best. Is there still someone that you're have on your bucket list that you still want to work with, whether it's a director or an actor in the future?
That's a good question, and I was thinking about today. I'm like, he's probably gonna ask me a question. I'll be like, good question. Wow, who would I want to act with? I mean, I think it's going to be like Harrison Ford. It would be someone like it'd be someone top tier like that. Director wise, I mean, let's go with what's the Avatar guy's name? Man, I can't remember his name right now.
What movie was he in?
No, the director that did Avatar. What's his name?
James Cameron.
Yeah, yeah, a big James Cameron. Yeah, I mean, I've been with pretty big ones. The guy that I did Love, Death and Robots with Fincher. Yeah, he was cool. He does like a lot of takes. He makes sure he has everything. Like he doesn't go to edit without what he needs. I've been very fortunate, man. If I look back on my list, a couple times I do look back on the movies I played in and who I've acted with and who I got the chance to take direction from. I've been super fortunate. I got a fight scene with Jason Momoa in
Yeah,
season 2 of here. That was great, and my wrestling and my judo background came in real handy for that.
definitely.
I like I think James Caan would be good because he does all that wow stuff, man. And then Harrison Ford, I think, because he's had the really long career. But who I acted with Malcolm McClurry, is it from Project Orange? Project Orange?
Hmm.
Yeah, he was in Psycho Killer with me. He was played one of the other characters, and my goodness, man, that guy was nailing dialogue like pages and pages. I'm just like watching like like just like when you see someone doing well, it's like okay, he found what he was supposed to do. I mean, his acting was great. Like he is an actor's actor, man. And I just been forced. Like I worked with Tom Selleck, Ron Perlman,
Yeah.
Jim Caviezel,
Um,
Danny McBride. John Goodman was another one. Watching Roseanne because he was another big guy, and I got to do a scene with him. I'm like, check. You know what I mean? So I've been checking the bucket list off before I even had a bucket list. So, but yeah, I'm just happy to work. Something exciting. I get to contribute. I'm kind of looking to get on a TV series and like because I've done more. I think I've done more film, but all my stuff that I do is like it's like in and out. I want to try to get something that I can develop a little better and get on a show where it's like where I make a difference. As
yeah.
opposed to coming most of my career is to come in, get beat up by the star, and make the star look strong. Oh, the star kicked that guy's ass. Like, so that's been the first 10 years, and now we're getting into more stuff because it's hard to cast for me. Like, who's 6'6", 260? Thor. Oh, but they're going to go with Helmsworth on that. I actually read for Thor. I have my audition somewhere around here, but like I read for the stuff. When I read for stuff, I'm going up against guys like Vince Vaughn. I read for the genie in Aladdin
Hmm.
years ago. I'm watching the film. Is that Will Smith? I'm like, okay. So I'm reading for stuff that you're not really going to get because you're not what these guys are. So it's a little frustrating. I got enough years on me. It's just the connections and whatever else is happening, behind the scenes that I'm just not getting the looks for. Just not getting the green light on some of these bigger roles. Read for Mortal Kombat. Just recently, I was down to me and the other guy, but they went with the guy with the bigger muscles. I was like,
For the sequel,
red
for the sequel or the first one?
sequel.
Sequel. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I read for which was a great film, great TV show I really wanted to get. And I read for Terminal List. I was going to
Mhm.
play what's the guy's name? The guy from Academy. Something Academy.
Umbrella
So,
Academy.
yeah, that he ended up getting at and because he's going to be playing oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. So he's going to be playing the lead. It's called The Dark Wolf. It's going to be a prequel to the. And so I read for that. It was down to me and him again. I was like, and I just didn't get the buzz. I was like, oh. And
Hmm.
there was now they shot in Budapest, and I read for another one called David Goliath, and I read for Goliath, and that shoots in Greece, and didn't get that one. So I'm like so close for these jobs, but these jobs that I don't get, things in my personal life happened that wouldn't have happened if I was in Greece or if I was in Budapest or if I was somewhere else. Like stuff for my sons have some opportunities that came up that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't here to take them there. So, yeah, it's amazing, man. I just trust and believe. I'm like, hey, I want this to happen, but I'm just making plans, and he's like, don't worry. So I just let it go. Like if I don't get that Mortal Kombat, I mean, it's for a reason, and it was my son. My son needed some help with something, and I was able to get him the help that he needed because I was here. If I wasn't here, he wouldn't have got that help, and he'd be suffering. So I just look back and just, I just trust and believe that I'm on the right path, and I get to go to sleep tired. I wake up with a smile, and I'm excited for each day that I get.
We've interviewed Matthias Hughes, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Big action star from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, he's my buddy, man. We
Really?
hang out and train. Yeah,
Oh
Matthias, he's
wow.
great.
So I'm sure
No,
you've
I told him.
seen
I
it.
said, oh
Yep.
yeah. I told him. I said, you're the reason I started because
Oh wow.
you come and leave in pieces. Yeah, we back and forth, and then he's like, well, it's your turn to take over now. And oh yeah, we're buddies. When I first got there, 'cause I had long blonde hair. We're just like,
Uh-huh.
hey man, we're just like total buds. Yeah, he's great. He's
You
great.
remind me a
Yeah.
lot of him, and I know he'd mentioned that Dark Angel 2, he's really pushing to get the sequel made for I Come in Peace 2. And it's written, there's a great part for Dolph Lundgren. I mean, seeing you three all go at it with each other, I think that would be an amazing fight scene with
Wow.
you guys.
I'm gonna reach out to him now that you mentioned. After this, I'm gonna give him. Actually, I was gonna. You're on my phone. I was like, do I have my phone? I'll call him now. You're on my phone, but
It's
yeah,
a
I'll let you know how it works out. I'm gonna text him after this and say, yeah, man, if there's a part for me in there. Did he say there was a part? What did
Yes,
he say?
so we've interviewed him twice,
Yeah.
and we've talked about it. I know that it's written. He's really pushing. He's been pushing for a little while to get it made, and I can actually send you the clips of where he talks about what the story's about. It's really interesting, and it'd be a great place to kind of pick up. The part is great for Dolph. I haven't heard anything, at least in the past year, but I'd love to see if there's any momentum that's picked up. And he just did a new fight movie with a lot of the old 80s action stars that were all back. So definitely, I would love to hear if there's any momentum. I think you'd be
Oh,
great in a sequel.
yeah. Let me. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him to me. I'm gonna reach out to him and see how far along it is, and if there's anything in, if we could work together, that'd be great. Oh, he's awesome. He's awesome. What a stud. Oh my goodness. Like I remember looking at some of his videos. I'm like, thank goodness I wasn't squaring off with you. Like, thank God you're older than me by a bit. So like, it's my time now. I mean, he's a dude, man. I like him. He's great. Now he's so giving too. He's so generous, man. He's really cool.
He's always been super humble. Anytime that I've asked him to come on the show, he's made himself available. So yeah, definitely would love to see that come to fruition. And then also, I know, and you've played Hulk Hogan before in the Weird Al which film, and I know
Mhm.
that there was a project that Liam Hemsworth was attached to, and I just listened to an interview with Hulk Hogan where I think that project is now stalled, or there was a certain deadline I think that Netflix needed to meet, or something
Mhm.
to where now they're going in a different direction. So I don't know if that's actually casted, but he is still looking to get that movie made. And you're right around
Mhm.
the age where you can play, because Hulk now is close to 70, but you can also
Yeah.
play those younger scenes as well too. That might be a good opportunity as well.
Yeah, I actually read for to play Hulk Hogan again in The Young Rock. And I went to
Mm.
my buddy a bit younger than me, went to Brock O'Hearn, he's decent. He's a good sized guy. He's got the long hair and he's got the face structures. They did him up really well, and that's his real mustache too. So yeah, I enjoyed doing the weird. Oh, and the funny part about that was like, okay, it was a 5 a.m. call time. So we get in a call and they're doing hair and makeup, and they're painting my skin like a rotisserie chicken color, so it's like really brown. And I'm in the handlebar. I got the hair on, the hat, and I'm like this. It's like I don't know, it'd be 10 a.m. in the morning. Like, okay, you go to breakfast. When to breakfast, don't take your mustache off. We didn't shoot that till 2 in the morning, dude. I was like half asleep. Okay, all right, let's go. Then you're like, you got to pretend you're at an awards ceremony. It's like, okay, all right, brother. And you're walking out there and you're letting it fly. It's like, man, I've been here for almost 24 hours in this makeup, and they're like, okay, you're at the awards show, you're presenting, so go. I'm like, oh, dude. So there's, acting is a very unique animal. So but yeah, I'll look into that. I have a great team. I'm with Buckwald in the States. I got Jeff Goldberg as my manager. I have Ambition Talent in Canada, and I'm with Coast to Coast commercially. So I got a great team, and they always give me good looks. I'm always getting the stuff I'm supposed to be reading for. So I got a great faith in my team, and the guy upstairs always gives me some good stuff too. And I'm happy. I got these two beautiful boys that get the father, and
Amazing. God bless.
man, you know, no, it's great, man. How about yourself? You have any kids?
Well, just recently married. I was married in July. So yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you
Good.
so much. So yeah, we're definitely, obviously getting started for that, second half of our lives as well too. So yeah, I can't wait. Just from hearing your passion, your joys with your kids, I can't wait to start having
Mm.
kids as well too.
Oh, changes everything, dude. It changes you. Like you're a different person. You're like, oh, you die for your kids. I heard that before. I mean, you crazy. Stinky diapers. Like now I would throw myself in front of a crocodile so my kid could get away. Without even thinking. And like I'll change the diaper because I don't want the poo on my son's skin. So like I changed I'm maybe thinking about that. But before I had a kid, if I had to change a diaper, I'd tell that story for a year. Oh, I had this diaper on. But you're just a different person. You just you're just an absolutely different person, man. And you'll see, and you'll look back at this and go, "Wow, James is right." I mean, you're up all hours. You don't mind if you slept. Like, what did I eat today? I don't even know if I ate today. It's just like, kid, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? It's great, man. And you become so selfless. I mean, it's all about them, and it's incredible. It really is. And anyone who's about to have a kid, who's nervous or nothing, how can I afford a kid or what? Buddy, they eat this much food off the corner of your plate, like and you're with them all the time. Man, it's great. It's everything. It's the reason why we're here to procreate for sure, dude. Like once you have a kid, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is it. Changes everything. Like every film, everything that I did was awesome. To being a dad doesn't compare to being a dad. It's everything, man. I just absolutely love being a dad. It's great.
Amazing, amazing. And
Yeah.
I do also I always love asking the question, whenever we have, our stars in the show, whenever they're not working, what are some of the shows that you're binge watching or the last movie that you saw?
Oh, that's a great question. Usually I watch stuff because I have to like audition for the show. So I got to watch all the backstory to catch myself up. But what have I watched recently? I'm watching Tulsa King, which is great.
Awesome.
Yeah, all the Taylor Sheridan stuff, man. He's got me. The Tulsa King, Lioness,
You
which
watched
I
the
read
last
for Lioness.
episode?
Huh?
Did you see the
No,
last
I haven't
episode?
because I'm in Canada with my old man, so I got other things to do. So when I get back to LA next week, and there'll be two episodes next week. On the Monday, I'll get both of them. So uh, don't ruin it for me, man. Don't ruin it for me.
Won't say anything. Won't say anything.
So,
Enjoy it.
yeah, Tulsa King, Lioness, Yellowstone's coming back. I can't wait to watch that. The Outer Range,
Outer Banks?
with yeah, no,
Outer
with
Banks?
what's his name? The guy that played Thanos. What's his name?
Oh,
James
Josh
Con. No.
Brolin? Josh Brolin?
Yeah, Outer something. There's about the hole in the earth, about that one.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. He's awesome.
think it's Outer Range. Watch that. Of course, you watch this. The Sopranos. Years
Favorite,
ago.
favorite
What
show.
was
Favorite
good?
show of all time.
Ozark was good. Did you see Ozark?
I did, I did. Yeah, we've had a few Ozark cast. Ozark was awesome. Wanted to have
Yeah.
another season of Ozark too. I hope they can turn that into like a Netflix movie for like a, just something unique. That was a
Yeah.
great show. Great show. Came out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah. What was before? So it was Breaking Bad, Ozark, Breaking Bad, of course, Breaking Bad.
Better Call
Yeah,
Saul.
yeah, yeah. Better Call Saul. Yeah, all that, man. Yeah, but so right now it's Linus, Tulsa King. I just finished watching From. It's Canadian. I think it's Canadian. A bunch of Canadian friends of mine are in it, and it was kind of scary. So I was watching it, and it keeps unraveling. It's something
There
like,
are a
well,
few
where's this
seasons.
going? Where's this going? Huh?
There are a few seasons in, right? They're like on season 2 or 3 right now.
Yeah, they're on number 3, and it stopped after episode 5. Because I'm like, did they do
Yeah.
season 4? They're like, no. So like, because there's so many things that are happening, I'm like, how are they going to tie this all up? But the thing about when you're writing is you kind of always leave it open ended for the end of the season, so maybe you could do another season. But they stopped halfway through season 5, and I'm just like, hey, there's so many like unanswered questions. It's like, oh, so don't watch From because it's super frustrating because you don't know what how it ends. It's crazy, crazy frustrating.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
yeah, those two, Linus and Tulsa King. And I read for Linus too. I read for the older soldier guy. But again, had I got that, I would have been in Texas and I would have missed some opportunities with my son. So all good, man. All good.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, even seeing you, maybe in Tulsa King season 3, maybe seeing you in a scene with Cash Flow. That'd be a good fight between
That'd
you.
be cool. Yeah, good for him getting in there. I had my team watching for that, but they're like, yeah, they're mostly Italian mafia guys this season too. I'm like, that's okay, let it
Yeah,
go. I mean, you get the ones you're supposed to get. I mean,
yeah,
you can't shoot it. Even if you're a great actor, you can't do everything. There's stuff that fits you. So,
yeah.
and when my shot comes, I'll be ready. I'm excited. Oh, the other one, Mayor of Kingston too. I was looking for that one too. I read for that. I read for the season 1, the skinhead guy. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I'm always reading, man. I'm just gonna catch one of them, and it's fun to the process. And I don't mean, I love it, dude. When I talked about acting, I always talk to a smile, man. I'm so lucky that I'm doing this. I really am.
Definitely. No, and I can't wait to see, your upcoming projects. And I know we lightly touched about some of them, but are there any other additional projects that you're allowed to talk about that you can tease the fans?
Well, like I said, I have Psycho Killer coming out, where it's like the new horror genre. It's a horror film, like it's like the new
Yeah.
Jason or the new Freddy Krueger. So we shot that last year in edit right now.
Nice.
When that comes out, I'll hit you up and we'll be doing something
Awesome.
big with that.
Awesome.
Um, what else did I do? Yeah, and just I directed a short, got that, and just writing and stuff, and then just auditioning all the time. So, it's just that's the game. You don't know what happens tomorrow. Like what a difference a day makes. All of a sudden you're in
Definitely.
Fiji, you're shooting something in Fiji. You're like, oh my gosh, you couldn't call that. You can't predict where this takes you. And that's what I like. Like some weeks you starve, and some weeks you're playing the lead up in Vancouver. You're a slasher. Like it's the unknown is the excitement. It's like I get a breakdown. Like where's this film? Greece, cool. Hope I get this one. Like I've been to Greece. You know what I mean? So that's an exciting part about this business too.
Definitely, definitely. And James, I want to be respectful of your time. I can go another hour, hour and a half. I'm having so much fun. There's so many more questions that I want to ask, but I always love leaving room for round 2. And it sounds like we got
Yeah.
some exciting projects coming up on the horizon. So it's a perfect segue for round 2. And I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast, obviously sharing these amazing stories with the fans. And we can't wait to share them. And just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Anytime. Let me know. Hit me up. We'll do it again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.